I never thought I'd be the type of person to be blindsided by betrayal. But life has a funny way of proving you wrong. My name is Olivia, and I'm 35 years old. I work in cybersecurity, a field that requires me to be constantly vigilant, always one step ahead of potential threats. Yet, the biggest security breach of my life didn't come from a hacker. It came from my own husband. Nathan always had a way with words. He was charming, full of grand ideas and impossible dreams. When we met, I admired his spontaneity, his ability to make life feel like an adventure. But over the years, I became the anchor to his endless drifting. While I built a steady career, he bounced from one failed business venture to another, always chasing the next big thing that never quite materialized. I ignored the red flags, the financial secrecy, the sudden bursts of unexplained expenses, the way he always had an excuse for why he wasn't bringing in any money. I wanted to believe we were a team. That changed the night I woke up at 2 a.m. and realized the person sleeping next to me wasn't the man I thought I married. Nathan must have waited until I was in deep sleep before sneaking downstairs to my laptop. He had always been reckless, but this was something new. He copied my credit card details, snapped a few photos with his phone, and slipped back into bed like nothing had happened. The next morning, as I sipped my coffee, I felt my phone vibrate with a series of alerts. At first, I thought it was work-related, but when I opened my banking app, my stomach dropped. Nearly $50,000 in charges. Luxury hotels, first-class flights, designer clothing, watches. It didn't take long to put the pieces together. I knew exactly who was behind it. What Nathan didn't know, though, was that the card he had stolen wasn't just any credit card. It was a dummy account, one I used in cybersecurity training programs to simulate fraud scenarios. Every transaction triggered an automatic alert. Every purchase was already flagged. Every move he made was being tracked. Nathan had no idea he had just turned himself into a case study, and I wasn't about to stop him. I didn't confront Nathan right away. Instead, I waited. That morning, while he slept soundly beside me, I called my lawyer, Emily. "You're not going to believe this," I said, walking her through everything. The stolen credit card details, the fraudulent charges, the fact that Nathan had no clue he was actively incriminating himself. Emily burst out laughing. Wait, let me get this straight. Your husband stole a card that's specifically designed to detect fraud." "Exactly," I said, a slow, satisfied smile creeping onto my face. "Every charge is already being flagged. It's only a matter of time before the authorities step in." She whistled. Wow, he really outdid himself this time. "So, what's your plan?" I leaned against the kitchen counter, glancing toward the stairs. I could hear Nathan stirring upstairs, completely oblivious to what he had done. "For now," I said, "I wait." Over the next few days, I watched the fraud alerts roll in like clockwork. $2,500 at a luxury boutique in New York. $8,000 for a first-class ticket to Paris. $1,200 on an extravagant dinner at a five-star restaurant. Nathan wasn't just spending stolen money. He was indulging himself to the fullest. Every alert that popped up on my phone felt like a small victory. He had no idea that with each reckless purchase, he was building a mountain of evidence against himself. 2 days later, he left a note on the kitchen counter. "Taking some time for myself. Don't wait up." I almost laughed. I knew exactly what that meant. Nathan had taken my stolen money and run off to enjoy his fantasy life. A life of designer clothes, fine dining, and five-star hotels. And I let him, because the deeper he dug his own grave, the harder it would be to climb out. Nathan was halfway across the world, living his dream at my expense. But what he didn't realize was that his vacation had an expiration date, and it was coming up fast. For the next 3 days, I watched the fraud alerts keep rolling in. $5,000 at a high-end watch store in Paris. $3,200 for a private yacht rental in Nice. $10,000 on a luxury suite at the Ritz. He wasn't just spending. He was making a spectacle of it. Social media only made things easier for me. Every overpriced meal, every designer shopping spree, every ridiculous, living my best life caption was another nail in his coffin. Then, on the third day, my phone rang. Olivia Miller? This is Agent Carter with the Federal Trade Commission. I took a deep breath, keeping my voice steady. Yes, Agent Carter. I assume this is about the fraudulent charges? That's correct. We've been monitoring unusual activity on one of your accounts. Given the pattern of spending and international transactions, we're treating this as a high-priority case. I couldn't help but smile. I can tell you exactly who's responsible. My husband, Nathan Miller. There was a brief pause on the other end. Your husband? I explained everything. The stolen credit card, the fact that it was a dummy account, and that every single charge had already been flagged. Agent Carter let out a low whistle. Well, that's a new one. What happens now? I asked. We'll need a formal statement from you, but based on what we've already uncovered, he's in serious trouble. Given the amount of money involved and the interstate nature of the fraud, this isn't just a small case, it's a federal offense. I nodded, gripping the edge of the counter. How long do you think before he realizes what's happening? Agent Carter chuckled. People like your husband? They don't realize it until the cuffs are already on. That was fine by me. I thanked him, hung up the phone, and went about my day as if nothing had happened. Because as far as I was concerned, Nathan had already sealed his fate. He just didn't know it yet. For the rest of the week, I stayed quiet. I didn't block Nathan's number. I didn't warn him. I just let him dig himself deeper. Every night, I watched the fraud alerts roll in like clockwork. Every morning, I smiled, knowing he was running straight into a trap. Then, 4 days after he left, I got a text. Nathan, babe, you won't believe this. Paris is incredible. You should have come with me. Nathan, I picked up something special for you. You're gonna love it. I almost laughed. He really thought he was getting away with this. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded the message to my lawyer, Emily, and added 2 words. He's back. Her reply was immediate. Emily, perfect. I'll alert Agent Carter. Nathan had no idea that while he was blowing through stolen money, the case against him was being built piece by piece. Every single charge meticulously logged. Every movement tracked. He was already a dead man walking. And then, right on cue, 2 days later, he came home. I was sitting on the couch when I heard the front door swing open. Thanks for the upgrade, Olivia. I turned to see him standing there, grinning like he had just conquered the world. He tossed his designer sunglasses onto the coffee table and spread his arms like he expected a warm welcome. His tailored suit was crisp, his shoes spotless, his luggage spilled high-end logos all over the floor. First-class flights, luxury hotels, designer everything. This was the life he always thought he deserved. What's so funny? He snapped, frowning as I burst out laughing. I shook my head, barely able to contain my amusement. Oh, Nathan, you have no idea what you've done. Nathan dropped his designer duffel bag onto the floor with a smug thud and shrugged off his expensive jacket, draping it over the back of the couch. You should have told me about that card ages ago, Olivia, he said, stretching like he hadn't just committed a federal crime. Imagine how much fun we could have had together. I leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed. And how exactly did you think this was going to end? He smirked, kicking off his shoes. You're always so uptight about money. It's not like you couldn't afford it. I figured you'd get over it once you saw how happy it made me. The sheer audacity of it almost made me laugh again. He had no idea. So the watches, the flights, the hotels, you thought all of that was just a gift from me? Not thought, he corrected, pointing at himself. Knew. It's about time you loosened up. I gave him a tight-lipped smile, revealing nothing. Let him think he's still in control. Let him dig his grave a little deeper. Nathan disappeared into the shower, humming some obnoxious tune. The moment I heard the water running, I picked up my phone and texted Emily. He's back. Ready to move forward. Emily. Perfect. I'll alert Agent Carter. For the past week, Emily and Agent Carter had been preparing the case against him. Every purchase, every transaction, every fraud alert had been documented. Nathan wasn't just a thief. He was an idiot who had given law enforcement a full roadmap of his crimes. And now, He was standing in the middle of the trap, thinking he was untouchable. Nathan emerged from the shower wrapped in a plush towel, grinning like a man who thought he had the world in his hands. He flopped onto the couch and pulled a shiny gold watch from his bag, holding it up to admire it. "You should have seen Paris, Liv," he said, shaking his head like he was reminiscing about some grand adventure. The shops, the restaurants, it was like a dream. I leaned against the doorway, watching him with quiet amusement. "Sounds incredible," I said. "Tell me more." And he did. Nathan launched into a dramatic retelling of his week-long spree, complete with exaggerated hand gestures and unnecessary details about the champagne at some overpriced rooftop bar. Every word felt like an indictment, a confession he didn't even realize he was making. And the best part? He had no idea I was recording the entire conversation on my phone. By the time he was done bragging, I had everything I needed. Nathan leaned back, stretching lazily. "And you know the best part?" he added, flashing me a cocky grin. "Nobody suspected a thing. Not even you." I smiled. "Oh, Nathan, you have no idea." The next morning, as Nathan scrolled through his phone on the couch, there was a firm knock at the door. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with anticipation. I took a deep breath, walked over, and opened it. Agent Carter stood on the porch, flanked by two uniformed officers. His expression was professional but unmistakably satisfied. "Good evening, Miss Miller," he said. "Is Nathan home?" I stepped aside, holding the door open. "He's right inside. Feel free to make yourselves comfortable." Nathan looked up, his brows knitting together in confusion as the officers stepped into the room. "What's going on?" he asked, sitting up straighter. Agent Carter approached him with calm authority. "Nathan Miller, you're under investigation for multiple counts of credit card fraud and unauthorized use of financial accounts. We'd like you to come with us for questioning." Nathan's face drained of color. His confidence evaporated in an instant. "What? No. This has to be a mistake." His eyes darted to me, desperate. "Olivia, tell them. This is crazy." I crossed my arms, tilting my head. "I don't know, Nathan. You've been awfully busy lately. Maybe you should explain it to them." The officers moved in, reading him his rights as they pulled his hands behind his back. "You can't do this," Nathan protested as they cuffed him. "Olivia, you're my wife. Aren't you supposed to stand by me?" I let out a short laugh. "Funny. I thought husbands weren't supposed to steal from their wives. Guess we're both learning something today." Nathan glared at me, his bravado now replaced with pure desperation. "You won't get away with this." I smiled. "Oh, Nathan, I already have." The door shut with a sharp click as the officers escorted him out, leaving the living room eerily silent. I stood there for a moment, taking it all in. He was gone. Finally. But this wasn't over. Not yet. An hour after Nathan was taken away, my phone rang. It was Emily. "He's in with Agent Carter now," she said, her voice calm but firm. "And from what Carter told me, Nathan is already trying to spin the story in his favor." I rolled my eyes. "Let me guess. He's playing the victim?" "Spot on," she said with a dry laugh. "He's claiming you gave him permission to use the card, that it was all a misunderstanding." I snorted. "Right. Because people accidentally spend $50,000 on first-class flights and designer watches." "Exactly. Don't worry, though," Emily reassured me. "Between the fraud alerts, the charges, and your recording of his confession, he doesn't stand a chance." I exhaled, a wave of relief washing over me. For the first time in a long time, Nathan wasn't my problem anymore. The next morning, Agent Carter called with an update. "We've got everything we need," he said. "Your husband's sorry, soon-to-be ex-husband, admitted to using the card but insists he didn't know it was tied to a fraud detection program." I almost laughed. "He's trying to blame me, isn't he?" "You bet," Carter said. "But it doesn't matter. The evidence is overwhelming. We're officially moving forward with the charges." Nathan was facing multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and unauthorized use of a financial account. Given the amount of money involved, Carter continued, he's looking at serious consequences. The buyer protection programs flagged his luxury purchases, so they're being reimbursed. You won't be liable for a cent. I closed my eyes, letting that sink in. The weight I had been carrying for days, weeks, years, finally started to lift. "Thank you," I said. "Don't thank me," Carter replied. "This case practically handed itself to us. You handled this brilliantly." I smiled. "Damn right, I did." Nathan's downfall happened faster than even I expected. Word spread quickly among our mutual friends and acquaintances about his arrest. It wasn't long before his carefully crafted image of the charming, carefree husband began to crumble. Nicole, the woman I had suspected he had been seeing, dropped him the moment she heard about the charges. The designer goods he flaunted were confiscated. The flights he booked? Canceled. The banks froze his accounts. And just like that, Nathan's fantasy life collapsed. A few days later, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Nathan. "Olivia, I need to talk to you." I couldn't help but laugh. "Nathan, the only thing you need to do is figure out how to explain yourself to the judge. Please," he said, his tone shifting to desperation. "I messed up, okay? I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was just what?" I interrupted, my voice cold. "Just trying to steal $50,000 from me. Just hoping I wouldn't notice? Just banking on me being too blind or too forgiving to stop you." There was silence on the other end. Finally, he muttered, "I thought you loved me." I let out a sharp breath. My anger boiled over. "I did love you, Nathan," I said, my voice steady. "I loved the person I thought you were. But the person who stole from me, lied to me, and thought he could get away with it, that's not someone I could ever love." Before he could respond, I hung up. And this time, I didn't feel the need to look back. A week later, Emily called with the final update. "Nathan took a plea deal," she said, sounding pleased. "No jail time, but he has to pay back every cent he tried to steal and complete community service. Plus, his credit is completely wrecked." I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. "That sounds perfect." She chuckled. "He always wanted the high life. Now he gets to see how the other half lives." I laughed, genuinely this time. 4 years. I thought Nathan was the one holding things together in our marriage. His charm, his big ideas, his relentless confidence. But now I saw the truth. I was the one keeping everything afloat. He was just dead weight. The day the divorce papers arrived, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my couch, looking around the apartment that now felt wholly and completely mine. Nathan's absence wasn't a loss. It was a gift. For the first time in years, I could breathe. No more lies, no more excuses, no more dragging someone else's dead dreams behind me. I redecorated, filling the space with colors and pieces that reflected who I really was. I finally booked the solo vacation I had been dreaming about, exploring the coastline and soaking in the kind of peace that only comes from leaving everything behind, even for a little while. Nathan tried to reach out a few more times. Vague apologies over email. A pitiful, tone-deaf letter claiming he had changed. I never responded. There was nothing left to say. Every now and then, I'd hear updates about him, struggling to find work, moving from one low-paying job to the next, while trying to pay back the money he owed. The designer suits and luxury trips were long gone, replaced by a harsh reality he wasn't prepared for. I didn't feel sorry for him. If anything, I felt relief. He wasn't my problem anymore. One morning, a month after everything had been finalized, I stood by my window with a fresh cup of coffee, watching the city wake up. Sunlight streamed into my living room, highlighting the fresh coat of paint I had picked out, my favorite shade of blue. For the first time, my home felt light, peaceful, mine. I thought about everything I had been through, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the fight to take back what was mine. It had been hell, but in the end, it had also been worth it. Nathan's downfall forced me to confront something I had been avoiding for years. I had spent so much time compromising, keeping the peace, making myself small, to accommodate someone who never truly cared about me. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I had trusted my instincts. I had fought back. And I had won. That evening, my best friend Lauren came over with a bottle of wine and my favorite takeout. "To new beginnings," she said, raising her glass. I clinked mine against hers. "And to never settling for less than I deserve." Over the next few weeks, I started building my life on my own terms. No compromises, no second-guessing, just me, finally free. One evening, as I sat on my balcony, sipping a glass of wine, I got an email. It was from Nathan. I stared at it for a moment, then opened it. It was long, rambling, full of regret. He apologized, though it read more like self-pity than sincerity. He said he still cared, that he had changed, that he hoped one day I'd forgive him. I read the first few lines. Then, without a second thought, I deleted it. I didn't need closure from Nathan. I had already found it in myself. As the city lights flickered in the distance, I raised my glass to the night sky. Here's to me, I thought. Here's to starting over. And with that, I closed the chapter on Nathan, for good.